Severe MMA, and I am joined with Joe McColgan. Happy Paddy's Day, Joe.
Happy Paddy's Day to you. I completely forgot. It
Yeah,
feels like Corona Day.
obviously been a crazy look. Let's get the elephant out of the room. It's been an absolutely insane few days for you. How are you? What's your mindset like? Obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, all the coronavirus stuff that's going on. Cage Warriors has been on. You were originally scheduled to face Machado. Then you got the Mason Jones fight was made. Warriors was on with the crowd, without a crowd. Then it was off for London. Now it's on for Manchester. So I imagine it's been an absolutely insane few days for you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. And that's an understatement saying it's an insane. I've been an insane few days. Like I actually can't describe in words how mental this has been since I got that call on Friday that Masada was out, Mason was in, and it was for the world title. Like what a roller coaster of emotions. I was on such a high on Friday, and then the coronavirus just everything with that just started getting more intense, and then I got more worried that the fight actually wouldn't go ahead, and then obviously the change in location and things like that. Every hour, like things are changing on the hour every hour. So whilst we think we're fighting in Manchester on Friday, like I mean, it's not 100% certain. Although that's the way I have to think about it. I have to be completely focused. I have tunnel vision now on the fight happening here on Friday in Manchester because I can't let myself get distracted with things that are outside of my control. Um, so right now I'm just trying to avoid the news. I'm actually trying to stay off Twitter and Instagram. Stay away from the hysteria and just try and get focused on the fight because let me tell you, this is the biggest fight of my life, and I know that, and that's what I'm preparing for. I've been preparing for this for the past 10 years, both mentally and physically. From day one on Cage Warriors, when I got in there. In fact, before I even fought, the night before my first fight with Arnold Cuero, I sat talking to Pete Carroll and Niall McGrath, calling out Chris Fishgold and Norman Park. I've been looking for these big fights since day one. I fought Peter Quilley with one fight under my belt, and he had just been signed to the UFC. These big fights, they don't mean anything to me. I'm ready for them at all the time. And so this to me, this is just another day in the office, another big fight, another opportunity that I'll take. I'll seize that opportunity with both hands, and I'm going to come away with that gold belt.
And Joe, as you mentioned there, obviously you're fighting for a world title. Like this is a huge moment for you in your career. In August, it'll be 10 years since your first amateur fight, since I believe it was Warren Mitchell. You fought in your first AMI fight. Just what are the emotions like? You've been someone who's always said that it's always been about the sport for you. It's never been about the money or anything like that. It's always been about the sporting aspect. So like what are the emotions were like for you when you found out that you were going to fight for a world title 10 years on?
I don't have words that would describe it for you. As simple as that. I'm not as articulate to be able to explain it. It was just the I still have to pinch myself to realize it's true. You have these dreams and you have these goals set out, and I'm a logical person. I'm a realist, and I take into consideration everything. And whenever you do that, you have to look at things and with a kind of realistic lens and see that that might not happen. You might have a goal, you might work your ass off, but that world title is reserved for very few people. So there's a lot that could happen that could prevent you from actually getting there. So to actually get here now and to have this opportunity in front of me, it's just crazy. I can't explain it to you. Like I still have to pinch myself to realize that it's happening. 10 years I've been in this game. 10 years ago I had my first amateur fight, and I haven't been fighting every 2 3 months. I've had time off. I took it like a year and a half out to go to New Zealand with my fiance, and I've just worked hard the whole time. I've worked hard in my job. I've worked hard in training. I haven't stopped, and I feel like now I'm starting to reap the rewards. And to think that Cage Warriors held me in such high regard that they would offer me this world title fight. It's just it's a real special moment for me, and because I know that the guys who've had this belt before and who've been given opportunities to fight for this belt have been absolute top class athletes. So to be considered a top class athlete by the Cage Warriors is just it's a real honor.
And you mentioned the guys who held the belt before. Obviously, Conor McGregor was the last Irishman to hold the lightweight title. Does that kind of put a bit more? Does it make it a bit more special that you're fighting for this belt rather than anyone? Obviously, the goal has always been to fight for a world title, but does that make it that extra bit special for you?
Well, I think it does for like media and people who aren't in this, not aren't in the sport, but my friends and family, they think it's pretty amazing. But to me, it's just I'm treating it as another fight. I don't care who held it before me. Yeah, whenever you think about who's held the belt and what they've been able to do with that belt and get to the UFC, it's class. But I can't think about that. I just think of this as another fight, another big fight, with an extra couple of rounds on the end, and that's it. That's all I'm thinking about. It's just this is another fight, and I'm gonna have to go in. I'm gonna work my ass off like I do in every single fight, and it's gonna be gritty. There's gonna be hard positions in there, but I'm ready for it. And it's gonna be a war.
And when you look at your opponent in Mason Jones, he's obviously coming in undefeated into this matchup. How do you see your skill sets matching up? He seems to be more, you'd be more kind of fighting maybe on the outside or more agile, I guess you'd say, on the feet. How do you see your styles matching up?
I would say we're quite similar. You could consider us all rounders, but we like to strike. He likes to strike coming forward. I like to strike coming forward. He's got good takedowns. I've got good takedowns. I haven't seen much of his takedown defense, and I don't think anyone's seen anything, like a tenth of my takedown defense. So I think it's going to pan out on the feet. I think there could be a bit of groundwork in there as well. I think it's probably going to go everywhere, the fight. To Mason's credit, he's very durable, and he'll be in there the whole time, as will I. So I just feel like it's going to be, two guys very similar in their skill set, going head to head for 5 rounds. Like, I mean, not going to be a treat. That's all I can say.
Were you surprised when Cage Warriors made the title fight?
Sorry, in terms of him being undefeated, that doesn't bother me at all. I actually relish that. And if you look through my record, I'm undefeated against the undefeated. So, nothing changes there. I've retired guys who've been undefeated for years. So, I mean, the fact that he's undefeated, I mean, that hasn't even crossed my mind.
Do you think that's an advantage or a disadvantage for him? Obviously, he'll have the confidence of coming in as an undefeated fighter, but maybe he hasn't tasted defeat, obviously. So kind of being put in those kind of awkward positions, do you think that would work to his advantage or disadvantage?
No, I don't think it's going to affect him at all. I've watched Mason Jones in trouble before, and he handles it very well. Very impressive in some of his fights whenever he's faced adversity. So I don't think having a loss would make him any better of a fighter. So I don't think it's going to. I think the unblemished record isn't going to factor into anybody's game here at all.
And were you surprised that Cage Warriors made the title fight? Obviously, you were scheduled to fight a 3-round fight, and then it went. We're in this position now. So, was it surprising that you're fighting for a title fight? I guess.
Well, it's surprising, yeah, because I thought it was. I thought in my head, I thought if I beat Masato here in London, then and depending on how the other 2 fights went, then I could be fighting for the title in May in Belfast. So, but at the same time, I was thinking that's probably going to be Patty and Mason Jones because I felt like they were both going to win their fights against the Italians. So I thought they're probably both going to fight for the title against each other at some point, and then I could fight the winner of that after I had an opponent in May. So, it was surprising that obviously I'm surprised that I got the title fight straight away, but I'm also not surprised because I feel like we're the two top contenders. And we weren't matched, and we both needed opponents. So, and I think we're both under the IFM banner. So, I think Graham, the only way that he wanted to put that together is if all the chips were in, and it was for the title. So I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised.
And all the talk lately in Irish MMA, or not all the talk, but a lot of the talk has been about the UFC coming to Dublin again. Is this a bigger fight for you than a UFC contract?
Oh, 100%. Like anyone, like not anyone can get into the UFC, but you can getting into the UFC is easier in my opinion than getting the world title, especially in the Cage Warriors lightweight division. That only like there are very few people that will ever have that belt around their waist. And so for me, this is it. This is the big deal. This is the top. Like in the top of my aspirations is to get that belt. And it always has been. Whenever Cage Warriors had their hiatus and they were away for 3 or 4 years, I was really like kind of unmotivated for fighting. I still fought and competed, but my goals were always to kind of get on the Cage Warriors and win that world title, and the UFC would be the cherry on top. But for me, it's always been about that Cage Warriors world title. Put it this way: if Cage Warriors turned around to me on Monday and said, "Listen, there's a UFC fight here for you, so Mason can fight somebody else for the belt, and then you can fight someone as a UFC fight, and then you're under contract with the UFC, and you'll get paid 10 grand to show, 10 grand to win." And I said, "No, thanks, Graham. I'll stick with Mason here for this belt." That's how much winning this belt means to me.
And you mentioned Patty Pimblett there. This is obviously a guy who you've been kind of looking to fight for a long time. Now your teammate, Decky Dalton, is stepping in on short notice to take Paddy on. Give us your thoughts on that matchup. What's it like, I guess, having Decky coming over on the card, one of your teammates fighting someone who you've been looking to fight for a long time, and then kind of giving up at a certain point of chasing that fight?
Yeah, I don't think that fight's ever going to happen. And I was only chasing it because, Paddy I thought was at the top of the division, and he was the man to beat. So like it doesn't matter who you are, if you're above me and if you're the guy that's going to get me to the next level, then I'm going to call you out, and you can take personal offense to that if you want, but that's what I'm going to do. So I don't think that fight is, well, the fight could happen. Like, it could be matched up with Paddy after this, after I get the belt. So we'll not rule it out.
Would it still interest you if let's say you're the champion come Sunday or Saturday?
Of course. Yeah, it'd be a great fight. Are you telling me that is a striker versus a grappler fight? And he's not a shit crack. He's a fucking electric grappler, very effective. So it's like a true striker versus a true grappler. And I know he can strike as well, and he's got good wrestling. So I'm not just saying that he's only a grappler, but when you kind of strip everything off, he's predominantly a grappler. I'm predominantly a striker. So for that reason, it's a really exciting fight. And it was for that reason that I was calling out Soren back, because that's what I want. He was at the top of the division, and he was an unreal grappler, like really, really good wrestling. So I was like, fuck, I love fighting grapplers. And I haven't really had the opportunity to do that, to fight like a high level pure grappler, and I feel like I would be at my best fighting someone with that style. So I've always wanted it to happen. So yeah, if the Paddy fight could still be on, you never know. But he has to get through Decky Dalton, and that is a challenge. Decky is like, I've explained this before to other people, Decky's like one of the hardest hitters I know. He doesn't have the death touch like that Reese would have, where you're going out to sleep. He has the death touch minus one, which means that you're going to feel all the pain of the death touch, but you're just not going to be lights out. So you're going to be there for 3 rounds getting your fuck beat in, and you're going to feel every one of those hard shots, and it's a different feeling. I can't explain it, but when you get hit by Decky, it's a much different feeling than being hit by anybody else. And that's even with the 7-ounce sparring gloves on. That's even with the 16s on. And I also said before in another interview that whenever Patty Pimblett's moving on the feet, it's not like really in out fast like karate style. It's more like plodding forward, plodding back. And whenever Decky's out in his feet, he's plodding forward and plodding back. And Decky's amazing at that, and that's his rhythm. So this whole fight is going to be for every time it's on, for every second that it's on the feet, it's going to be in Decky's wheelhouse, and it's going to be in his rhythm, and it's just going to be, it's a perfect combination for Decky just to go out light him up. And I think it's going to be a hard night for Paddy Pimblett against Decky. I think it's a bad fight for him. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and there's a lot. It seems to be a lot of momentum behind everyone in the gym at the moment. Up in FAI and Fight Academy Ireland. Obviously, Decky's just after defending his cage conflict title. He's now fighting Paddy. Your teammates Kyle McClurkin just won a cage conflict title. Cage conflict title there. Obviously, Paul Hughes had that spectacular head kick KO on the last Manchester card there. So, could you just talk to me a little bit about like what's the vibe like in the gym at the moment? It seems like there's a real surge of fighters coming up from Fight Academy Ireland.
Yeah, it's a really good vibe in the club, and it has been like that for the past couple of years. Ever since I got back from New Zealand, the club has felt different. There's a lot more guys there, a lot more young amateurs, up and coming guys who are like I say, crazy good. Like I think back to what I was like after a year and a half, and compared to the guys who've been training now for about a year and a half, and I think, well, you would absolutely destroy me back when I was only training for a year and a half. But it's because the level of coaching is so high. It's all very focused as well. So all of our guys have a really good top game. So we have unbelievable wrestling, get the fight down to the ground, and we can control our opponents in different positions, and we can work all our offense, and we've got like good, unbelievable back control now. Loads of real good pinning positions. So it's all really high percentage focused lessons that we're getting day in, day out of Fight Academy Ireland. We've stripped away all the fat. It's all just like high percentage stuff. So good back, good top game, good striking, good takedowns, good takedown defense. I mean, what else could you want? And all the guys are starting to have like the same style. You know, they have their own personalities and their wee like tweaks and that style, but it's all, broadly speaking, it's kind of the same, it's kind of similar style, and it's hard style to beat. So we're building an army here, and you said, you know, Decky just won the title for Cage Conflict, and now he's moving off in the Cage Warriors, in big fights. Kyle McClurkin, in my opinion, he's going to be the best. Well, I think he's probably the best right now, middleweight in the UK, and he'll be hopefully fighting on this Cage Warriors Belfast card if it happens, and the whole world will see how good he is. He's fucking animal. Don't never smart him ever. And and just all the amateurs that are come up. There are going to be a few guys moving from amateur in the pro this year. So it's an exciting time to be part of the gym.
And what do you think the difference is? Like, is there a difference? You mentioned kind of since you came back from New Zealand, but is there a difference in the club over the last couple of years, or is it just a case of this is the new wave of fighters coming through?
I would give Pat and Shan though a lot of credit. You know, the kind of classes they're putting on, and you know, it's very much they're leading the charge, and they're bringing in new members. And Pat's classes that he runs every day, he's really focused, and you know, he's motivating and inspiring, and that's kind of like rubbing off on everyone else. And then, you know, we have other guys like myself fighting in big fights. Decky's fighting in big fights. Paul Hughes as well. Like, Jesus, there's no stopping him. You know, and he is a real big factor in this here. Like, he motivates everybody and inspires.
Yeah.
Like, I've said it before, he's a 22-year-old kid. He's like, I shouldn't be like being inspired by a 22-year-old or motivated or like educated on a lot of things by a 22-year-old, but I am every day. It's crazy. I
think you described him as the dog that you didn't. To me in our last interview, the dog that you didn't want, but you can't help but love.
No, that's Paul.
Yeah.
No, he's a massive influence for everybody in the gym, not just the up and comers, but the veterans. So yeah, there's just a lot of good things happening in the gym at the moment, and we're riding this wave of success, and I see this continuing for a long time, and it's only going to get bigger.
Joe, I've got two more questions here. The first one is complete cliche, but tell us how the fight's going to go on Friday night in the BEC Arena in Manchester.
I'm going to win, and that's all I'm going to give you. I just know it. I'm going to go win, and I'm going to work my ass off for 5 rounds if I need to, and I'm going to try and box the ears off him. I'll try and D the takedowns, and I'm going to keep my hand raised.
Last question. Saturday morning, you're Cage Warriors champion. What's for breakfast?
Oh fuck! Oof, the biggest question for last. I kind of have a routine where I go back up to my mum and dad, so I'll be on the early flight home, in and out, try and not get infected, and then get home and I'll put on a big fry. The full work: sausages, bacon, soda bread, potato bread, black pudding, tomatoes, beans, you name it.
No white pudding. No white pudding.
No.
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 Oh, geez. It must be a Nordy thing.
No. It's just an under 70s thing. You know. I don't
Oh, come on now. White pudding way better than black pudding.
Really?
Oh yeah, come on.
No
You know,
way.
right.
On
On that note,
if there's white pudding on my plate, I'm still going to eat it, but it's just never on my plate, so I'll stick with the black pudding. Fair
enough. Right, Joe McColgan fighting for a world title this Friday night in the BC Arena in Manchester, not London. Joe, appreciate the time as always. You're a gent. Best of luck with the travel. Try not to get infected with coronavirus, and hopefully I'll be speaking to you as a world champion next time.
That's you, brother.
Joe, all the best. Appreciate the time.
See you later, mate. Thank you. Appreciate it.